Hi, how are you? I hope you are doing well after the after party. It was amazing. You created an unique atmosphere. I've met many people who are open-minded, friendly, helpful. Also, I'm the first time in Ukraine, and I met a lot of good emotions. And I beg you, don't stop being like this. And today, I would like to talk about the React Native and hybrid frameworks and testing. Probably if Michael Bolton would be somewhere, will make me more valid, because it's not all about the testing, but also automation checking. And today I have a goal to show you that the value added to project is not only about checking if the implementation is correct and our test process is valid. It's also about choosing the solutions, approaches, the way of producing apps that suits tightly to customers' expectation, clients' needs. And today, I would like to tell you a little bit about hybrid concept of developing applications. I will do this in introduction. Later, I will show you some examples, some proposals of frameworks that can be used for developing hybrid mobile application. Other thing I want to show you, because we are on test event, I will show you how to conquer the test automation, checks automation for those apps, and finally show how to do this with Detox framework. I will show example of React Native app, and we'll dive into code, and I hope after this lecture you will be able to start with developing automated checks for your hybrid project. But let's start with some introduction about this. What is the hybrid app? Usually when you develop mobile application, you have to write two separated code bases. I mean, it's not possible to do something like for web development where you just have to suit some attributes to be properly displayed on various browsers. In mobile development, you have just to write two apps using two different languages, and it can be a hell to conquer with this. And for hybrid approach, we don't have this problem. We just have one single code base, and using this code base, we are able to produce two apps, one for Android, one for iOS, and also sometimes reuse those components for web, what is amazing. And I want to make you sure why we are talking about the hybrid concept today. Some time ago, I mean some years ago, 10 years, 8 years, it was a great season for mobile developers, because all clients wanted to have mobile app for their products. Everyone was excited about having a fancy app with some animations and like that and like that. And customers had a lot of money, and they could spend those money to write two separated apps for Android and for iOS. That indicates that software houses or other companies usually had a structure where they had separated team for Android with Android heads, experts, and one for iOS. It's okay because it combines experts in specific area to make excellent quality, but we don't see exactly the cost of management. If we have very bad quality of culture of company, sometimes they can be separated so much. I mean, they will bear with costs of management 2 times. I mean, doing some agreements with clients, talking about the features, talking about the contract with API or some backend stuff, and that indicates a lot of problem. But now, something has changed, and clients don't want to pay so much money on just writing apps. Apps is nowadays nothing more than just a tool. When we use application like Uber, we don't care how does it look like. We look for premium quality, high quality of service, and other stuff like this. Some money has gone away. And maybe clients decided to move those funds into different areas of business, so marketing stuff or other things. And is that a disaster for companies that deliver products? I don't think so, because we manage with that. and created cross-computational teams. I mean, we combine heads of Android, heads of iOS heads to work together in one team and deliver products for clients. It indicates that they have to use other frameworks to do this. They cannot use old languages that they used to write code. Now they have to write new technology, combining their experts' knowledge about each platform, but writing, for example, for React Native in JavaScript. And now I will show you what kind of frameworks can be used for mobile development. I'm just saying about the frameworks that allows for writing those apps. First of them is React Native. I work a lot with React Native in my company. We do a lot of projects using this technology, also that use Bluetooth devices and other complicated stuff. And React Native is a proposal from Facebook. It allows for writing application in JavaScript, which is something similar to web development. That name is also is connected with web development because it is connected with React framework for web development and native development for mobile. It allows for writing code in JavaScript. It is translated by React Native engine into two separated apps. We have executable file for Android and iOS, and it works very, very smoothly. We have great performance. It's easy to write those applications. If you are not convinced for this framework, let's just see what big players are using this. I'm not saying all the applications are written completely in JavaScript and React Native, but sometimes some modules are written in React Native. If you want to learn more, you can check my company blog where we wrote a lot of posts about it. Also, I wrote some stuff related to today's lecture and testing. Another proposal is a Flutter. Flutter is an answer from Google to Facebook, and Google created a framework that allows for writing application in Dart. Dart is quite exotic language. It's not new, but it's made popular by Google. The concept of writing those apps is based on using widgets for everything. So buttons are widgets, some pop-ups are widgets. So, but I don't want to go into deep technical things about it. Unfortunately, we don't have many apps in App Store or Play Store written in Flutter, but I hope it will be more popular. We tested in our company this framework. One developer wrote one part of application in native way and in Flutter, and the performance was very good, and just experience of writing code was excellent. So we are crossing fingers for this technology. Next thing is Ionic. I don't have experience with Ionic, but it's based on HTML, so it allows for using some components written for web development and for mobile. So you can write code in HTML and use this on the mobile. Sounds good for web developers. And last proposal is Xamarin. It comes from Microsoft. All the code is written in C#, so it's commonly new language. And this framework is very stable. Many projects is already in the market using this framework. So I see big benefit of this, that it's stable and have wide community support. Next. We have a question. We were testing native applications. We know the tool set for this, required equipment, but how to automate this as before? We have to be prepared for writing tests and just checking everything in new environment. I can suggest you some approaches. The first one is using native tools that we currently use for native development. For Android, it's Espresso, and for iOS, it's XCUI test. I can highlight you some good sites and bets. I must say that native frameworks are very quick. They work with the same speed as for native applications. You don't have also problem with starting with this. You don't have to install additional dependencies. It just work out of the box. You just open Android Studio or Xcode, and you can, for example, record test. It's very simple. And big plus for me, it's support for device farms. Recently, I discovered these solutions and applied in some projects, and it's very helpful because if you don't have some exotic devices like some Chinese stuff, or you need extra big tablet with Android and you currently don't have, you just have to run your test on device farm. It's very helpful, easy to implement. They have great support, so no, I didn't face any problems. Bad side of this is, I will say you looking on the example of my project, where I discussed applying native framework to the project with a client. A client was very unhappy about providing another languages into code. If you have code written in JavaScript, adding stuff written in Kotlin or Swift is a little bit confusing, and clients are not open for this. Other poor thing is that you have to write your test separately. It's not like for web automation frameworks where you have just to adjust your code and change the browser engine driver. Here you have to write this once again. Of course, you can use some layer of abstraction with the BDD, but technical stuff like implementing mocks, doing some weighting mechanism is a hell. So doing this twice is a very bad thing. Maybe kind of treatment for this is using cross-platform black box test frameworks. I tested during my research about testing React Native. I tried Appium. Appium is a quite popular framework for web and mobile testing. It is based on Selenium and has great support from community. But good sides are that it supports many languages. So if your code is written in some language, you can easily find this language supported in Appium. Also because of time when it is released on the market, has a great wide community where you can find many helpers, libraries. If you have any questions, probably you will find this on Stack Overflow or somewhere. For web developers, it is easy to use because it is based on Selenium, so some syntax and other things are very, very close to things you already know. Other thing good is that you have single code base, so it's consistent with ideology of writing hybrid apps, and also it is easily configured with cloud device farms, so you can run your tests in many services that offer you devices. I faced with some bad things about it. It's slow. I'm not saying only about the time of test execution, because we can run our tests in the night, so it's not a big problem. I faced with problem with slow development. Checking all the changes that we put in code takes a long time, so our development is longer than for native tools, and sometimes it indicates a frustration for us in this. Also, I saw difficult in debugging and lacks of stability. Maybe I'm not expert in Appium or I'm not experienced in this, but my tests were usually unstable and it was hard to manage this to run in a stable way. So last proposal from me for doing this stuff is using cross-platform gray box test frameworks. In the logo, you can see a logo of Kyiv framework, which is designed for React Native. Other framework for React Native is Detox, and I will talk about it later. And those frameworks are very fast, easy in setup, because they are designed especially for the one technology we work. For React Native, we have Kyiv and Detox, which are tightly suited to the needs of developers, because it's written by developers of React Native. So they write this in the way that they want to use this. It comes with a single test code base. It's very good because we don't have to duplicate this once again. And it's tightly integrated with source code. So if we have a need to replace some modules just for mocking something or just doing some deep testing, we can, for example, for React Native, use repackager and replace some modules with the fake one. And it's very nice and easy to write code in this because API is designed for specific platforms. So we don't have universal forms that must run on this platform, in this framework. Everything is suited tightly to the needs of framework. But think of those frameworks that are early aged, and that indicates many problems. Some functions are not completely done, so sometimes we can face with not possible actions to perform. For Detox example, it is no way to run this on physical devices. That indicates we are not able to connect this with device farm. If your project depends on using various devices, various platforms, it's a huge blocker, and in that case, I would not recommend using those frameworks. Also, because it's early aged, we don't have an outspread community. So we have to face with some problems by ourselves. We cannot find answers in internet. So we have to develop some solutions by ourselves. But talking about Detox, authors of this framework quickly respond for all the issues on GitHub, and I really appreciate this because I raised so many issues about it, and they responded very quickly. Yeah. That's all about the approaches I would like to present you. Next, based on my experience with React Native, I would like to show you how to make our application testable and how to apply Detox framework in our project. First thing we have to achieve is making our application testable. We have to use some selectors to access elements. Of course, we can do nothing and just use text selectors, but it's better to use some IDs to solve issues with various translations of our app. On the slide, you can see a piece of code made in JSX. It's a kind of description for views made in React Native. We have to extend this with 3 fields. We have to set this accessible and mark it as true, set test ID, and accessibility label. You can see now that on Xcode inspector, we can see that test ID is found as accessibility identifier, and it's commonly used technique in native testing. So this change was applied as a real change in the view. And also accessibility label can be found as a description. Next, we will switch to Android view hierarchy, where we can see that accessibility label is found as a content description. You can see that resource ID field is empty, and that's a limitation of React Native. We cannot set this, and it's a poor thing because in native test automation, I mean in Espresso, we usually use this selector for accessing elements views. Now I prepared some slides about the code we have to do, but I think it's better to just dive into code. I prepared a very simple application. I will run this now on Android device. Okay, we launch React Native run Android command. It comes from, okay, I will make this. Okay, it's very simple, just a button. Oh, something is missed. There should be an image. I tried this on the previous lecture and it was working, so random stuff, some bug. Okay, but it doesn't matter. I will show you how to write the code for our tests. I open my project in Atom, Atom IDE. And what is the state I have currently? I installed all dependencies from GitHub manual page, so ran some npm commands for installing dependencies, and triggered command detox init. Now, what I have to do is to create configurations for Detox. You can see, I will make this bigger to be more visible. Do you see? Can you see at the back? I think it's visible. Okay, you can see that I created Detox section where I have configuration section with two options, one for iOS and one for Android. Going step by step, we define binary path, so it's a place where our executable for platform is located. You can see that for iOS we have just app file, so native application, and for Android it's apk. Next, we specify the build command. You can see that we use native ones, Xcode build for our project in iOS, and some Gradle task for Android, so nothing new. Next, we decide that we want to run on simulator and emulator for Android, and define names of devices we want to use for test execution. Poor thing is that for iOS, this simulator will be launched automatically, but for Android, we have to run this by ourselves. So you can open Android Studio or use command and fire the emulator. If you have the configured package.json file, package.json for React Native is something like a script with dependencies and build scripts. We can go to end-to-end folder. It is automatically created by Detox, so we don't have to create those files automatically. First file I will show you is a Mocha ops file, and it's for making some settings in our test runner. I use Mocha, you can use Jest, or just two options. Next file, it's init.js. It has 4 methods and some object. You can it's created automatically by Detox. So you don't, if you just start writing tests, you don't have to change anything in there. You can see at the top that we declare Detox object using our library. We declare some config, and it is related to package.json file and section Detox, which we defined previously. Next, it's adapter, and it's stuff for configuring our test runner. You can see that we have methods that are triggered before our test suite starts. So once at the start, once at the end, it's after method, and also methods for to be executed before each test starts and ends. If we have configured this, we have to go to the test class. You can see that it's normal JavaScript class where we have some name for this. I already written some methods and checks, but we will write some code by ourselves now. You can see that I declared method before each. It's about reloading JavaScript bundle. Bundle is a piece of components that are made by React Native to native applications. So we have to inject our components in the native app. And also I implemented this kind of mechanism for waiting for the first view element to avoid problems with not accessible elements because of loading React Native. Let's create some tests. I will start this with keyword IT. I will expect that my application, after tap on the first button, will display, for example, QA first title. So should be button with text QA first displayed after a click. Okay. Now we define that it's run asynchronously. I'm not an expert in JavaScript, unfortunately. So if I'm doing something wrong, just tell me. And now, we want to perform tap operation. So we use await, because we run in asynchronously mode. For element, we want access element. And we will find this by using ID. So we say that we'll find this by ID. This ID I checked, and it's button text. To perform tap operation, we just call tap, nothing more. Now we have to wait for our elements. So we use method wait for. Once again, element. By this time, we will use text selector. By text, QA fast. And we want this element to be visible, so we just write to be visible. Syntax is very simple. With some timeouts, let's say give 2 seconds for this. So we define milliseconds timeout. Okay. And now let's do some assertion. Await, we will expect for this element found by text. Once again, QA first. Of course, we can put all the stuff in fancy page objects, but today it's not our goal. To be visible, we don't define our timeout. I forgot about timeout key. Without timeout, with timeout to be visible. I think it's everything. Of course, our application does not have this text. It's polydia. So we have to change the content. We have to go to our custom button file, and we'll just check polydia to QA fast. And that's all. It should be enough. Now let's, I will clear this. Where? In the test, 28, we wait for. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, wait for in the big capital letter. Okay, thank you. A little bit stressed. Looks okay. So let's check if it's running. I will run this on emulator, Android. So we run Detox, test, and we define that we will use configuration for Android. Android emu debug. That's all what we need? Yeah. Let's check this. Probably something will go wrong, but I hope it will work. Okay, you see that our tests are going quite fast. Okay, so we passed our expectation, and now yesterday I worked on one feature that I didn't check in Detox, and it's very interesting for me. Because Detox allows for using test artifacts. I mean recording test execution and doing screenshots before and after each test. I will show you how to use this. Let's go back again to the terminal. And now we will trigger our test execution, but with option for artifacts. So we run Detox, test. Let's run this on iOS. It's all, and we'll say that take screenshots. Take screenshots after all tests, not only failing, because we can also say that after failures. Also, we will record videos, and also for all. And it will produce some screenshots and MP4 files in artifacts localization, and I will show you this. Unfortunately for iOS, it's running today in headless mode. I don't know why. Recently I checked this and it was running in normal way, but we will check. We will see only the logs from execution. Just give a second for this, because all the stuff related for simulator must be displayed. And why I'm so excited about using those artifacts. Okay, you can see that test execution is in progress. I am excited because we can use this solution for some snapshot testing. I recently, okay, one test failed. Okay, something strange, but we'll check this. We have to go to artifacts section folder, go to iOS, and maybe the first one. Wait a second, because of strange marks in there. Okay, I'm inside. I will open this. I'm excited because of possibility of using snapshot testing, and so comparison of those things. You can see now a video from test. It's quite short and simple. We can use screenshot comparison. I found the tool from Yahoo. It's named Blinkdiff, and you can see that we can use this for some snapshot testing. I will make a copy of this file after each. We'll change the name to after. And I will change something on this. Just delete part of image. And now I will run this Blinkdiff tool. Blinkdiff. It's very simple. We have to specify output file. So let's say PNG. And two files we want to compare. It will be after and after each. You see, it failed because comparison wasn't completed with success, but it's okay. And have a look on the file. You can see that it combined two images that were compared and created one comparison with highlighted a difference. So we can use this for doing some automation. We can check all our tests if everything looks okay. Sometimes we need some pixel perfect testing, and it's hard to do this with normal approach, looking on accessibility identifiers, and this tool can be very helpful for us in that case. Last thing I want to show you about the Detox is configuration with CI, because our tests are useless when we don't run those tests regularly on CI. I use GitLab in my company, so I will show you scripts for GitLab. I defined some stages where I have to build, test, and deploy. This script does contain an optimization or avoiding duplication of downloading dependencies. It's just simple as it can be. I defined one job for iOS that can be run in a test stage. And in before script, I install all required dependencies. I refer to GitHub manual page, and I just install this using npm method. Nothing hard. Next, I have script section where I start React Native packager on some port and move this to background, because if we will not move this to the background, our execution will stop on this stage. Next, we build our application with Detox build command and fire our tests. Last thing is, just for making this clear, killing the React Native packager, because without this, we will stuck in this moment forever and ever. You can see that I have specified tag, because iOS runs must be triggered on Mac-based machines. So I run some Macintosh runner. For Android, it's almost the same. I have one difference because, as I said, we have to launch our emulators manually. We have some custom solution for running emulators in Docker. So we use services things from GitLab. That doesn't matter. You can do this in different approach. In before script, we connect to this emulator and wait for to be launched completely, and install all required stuff. It is less for Android because we don't have to use some Apple UTs. For running tests, it's almost the same. We just change the configuration that is required for running tests. So in the previous script, I use iOS sim debug, and now I'm using Android emu debug. Also, at the end, we clean everything to not have stacked things. I think it's all about automation with Detox. With that config, you can start writing your test. Probably you will face with some problems and different things, but you will have to manage this by yourself. I hope I teach something about teach you about doing some automation in React Native, and if you will be able to start with a test automation in your projects, I will be very happy. Let's go back to the presentation. As I said, I skipped some slides, so I have to move somewhere. I left them because I was afraid of some internet issues or something. Previously, demo was just recorded, but I decided to do this in a live way. Okay. You must remember after this that the tool we want to use for our project must be suited tightly to customer needs. So if our customer just needs MVP for 2 platforms, he's not expecting anything special with super architecture. If he's not expecting excellent performance of app, I mean some sports app with recording in higher frame rates, React Native or other framework can be okay. If you will decide for using a hybrid framework, you can use your well-known tools, native tools or just Appium or something, but I will highly recommend you to use tools that can be better. If you are using cross-platform framework, you can automate this with cross-platform tools. And if you don't have very complicated structure of app, you just can't. You just can use those things and avoid code duplication. If you will decide for React Native, framework for development, I will recommend you using Detox as a good tool for automation. I checked this and applied in some projects, and it's working fine. Of course, sometimes we have some issues, for example, using some custom libraries like Expo for React Native, but in fact, it's very good tool with great support from authors, and it's still developing, and I think it will be very, very, very important player as a framework for test automation. I think it's all. If you have any questions, some thoughts about it, some feedback, I'm open for this, and I will be very grateful for your actions now. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hello, thank you for your talk. My question is, can I use Detox with my own APK, let's say? Not use Detox build, but use APK that I've built somewhere else, let's say.
Yes, if you will put this in a right place in the folder. You remember I defined path for this. You can skip build step and just place this application in the path that you declared. You have to run React Native packager if it's based on React Native technology application to put the JavaScript code inside. But in fact, you can use standalone build. You can use just the build that you have currently. You don't have to build this each time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. More questions? Okay, then Adam, thank you very much for your presentation. It was really interesting, I think, and useful. Зараз у нас з вами перерва до 12:00.
Thank you.